Let us execute an immediate, sweeping analytical vector shift away from the historic Connecticut townhouses, coastal stalker networks, and architectural paranoia of contemporary suspense, and plunge straight into the high-octane, calculation-heavy tracking grids of deep, mist-shrouded Minnesota pine woods, weaponized generational curses, and the fiercely protective, dangerously fragile world of an elite bloodline of magic-wielding female assets running a raw tactical survival loop. We are crossing the threshold directly into the hyper-monitored, omen-battered perimeters of a sinister Midwestern hill estate, exploring the lethal analytical parameters of an intense, trust-shattering deception matrix with the Blackthorn women, the exceptional, pulse-pounding Gothic thriller masterpiece engineered by the absolute undisputed sovereign of small-town secrets, dark ancestral unreliability statecraft, and high-velocity paranormal dread, Jess Lourey. This high-stakes narrative tracking sequence delivers an exceptional look at an operational crossroads, where a fierce, emotionally devastated returning daughter asset running an unyielding safety loop, a calculating potion-brewing matriarch network running a high-stakes proximity tracking routine, and an absolute defense against an ancient, writhing ancestral threat vector collide at terminal velocity. Let us map the strategic narrative grid. If you are an elite enthusiast of high-octane, slow-burn psychological thrillers where an endangered, hyper-observant female protagonist must navigate an absolute maze of rigged family history, corrupt childhood gaslighting, and a deadly ring of active supernatural frame-ups while running a blind survival loop inside a completely compromised domestic ecosystem, where an analytical mind uses deep behavioral profiling, calculated arcane boundaries, and absolute emotional stamina to outmaneuver an invisible predatory stalker network, and where the author utilizes an incandescent, shattered woman fleeing her husband's infidelity, returns to her family's Gothic mansion, only to trigger a terrifying thaw of amassing snakes and a deadly generational curse, diagnostic routine to test our hero's structural limits. This book is engineered to lock you in. Lourey completely dominates the high-precision Gothic witchcraft red flags meets suffocating small-town hostility dynamic, capturing the heart-racing intellectual momentum, suffocating domestic paranoia, and heavy deductive depth popularized by genre vargs like Alice Hoffman, Practical Magic, Amelia Hart, Crystal Sutherland, and Sylvia Moreno Garcia, Mexican Gothic, while treating realistic arcane botanical forensic logistics, complex multi-generational trauma alignment arcs, and protective high-density psychological extraction grids with absolute technical mastery. The narrative tracking grid zeroes in on a highly volatile, calculation-heavy baseline of our central legendary powerhouse asset, Katrine Blackthorn, operating under a severe calculation-heavy handicap of severe emotional trauma following a broken marriage, deep family estrangement, and a hyper-visible targeting canvas within her home count's historical database. Behind her rigorous domestic database footprints and tense personal history logs lies an intricate matrix of hidden faction allegiances, deeply buried high society secrets, and sharp high-stakes tactical maneuvers. Her collective defense mechanisms are locked down tight behind a lifetime of trying to shield her identity from her family's legacy, her entire analytical focus strictly consumed by monitoring sudden threat vectors from her potion-brewing hyper-paranoid mother Ursula, parsing complex behavioral shifts from her charming yet manipulative grandmother Velda, and shielding her vulnerable, deeply broken sister Jasmine from being entirely wiped out by a ruthless elite cleanup offensive. The spark ignites when an unexpected high-frequency structural anomaly breaches her active scanning perimeter. Katrine's return to Faithfalls perfectly syncs with an aggressive environmental shift as countless venomous sminks amass from the spring thaw, signaling the activation of a terrifying ancestral directive. As the hostile adversarial execution phases enter an increasingly lethal terminal tier across her ticking clock timeline, a menacing stranger rolls into town functioning as a clean, traceless proxy for an ancient dark force. The official diagnostic metrics of the Global Tracking Centers flash white hot when her unauthorized internal tracking maneuvers and raw deductive output reveal that a powerful curse, originally uttered by a vengeful past entity to permanently steal the Blackthorn woman's power, is radically impossibly altering her household's historical balance of power. The standard boundaries of routine domestic safety and peaceful civilian protocols crumble, and our central protagonists run completely out of standard diplomatic escape vectors. They are thrust directly into an active, invisible war across the shifting hallways of the Queen Anne Mansion, where deceptive community figures masking mere true coordinates, highly manipulative local handlers, and a calculation-heavy psychological shadow network launch aggressive countermeasures to permanently suppress her family's survival data stream. The tactical parameters instantly explode as their historical and survival warfare turns completely active, transforming the isolated rustic workshops, dark forest paths, and private fortified residential rooms into a volatile psychological pressure cooker and a physical battle zone. Our protective, hypervigilant heroine is forced to deploy her massive intuitive tradecraft, elite behavioral mapping skills, and raw ancestral stamina to preserve her focus before her adversary's relentless, calculation-heavy proximity containment phase permanently deletes her boundaries. The threat vector remains purposeful and resolute, determined to deploy deep digital extortion loops, localized psychological sabotage, and persistent dominance to rewrite her personal metrics, only to realize her hardened defensive protocols and shifting counter-narratives match her opponent's raw tactical speed step for step. Every midnight forensic archival excavation of old family grimoires, every silent choice to stand off against an encroaching adversary behind standard architectural barriers, and every intense moment of channeling raw, unyielding survival mechanics chips away at her reliance on original peaceful rules. What follows is an exceptional, high-stakes war of perspective, tactical position, and raw human grit. We watch the suburban elite's deceptive perimeters completely unwrapped as Jess Lourey reveals that the true victory requires more than just surviving an initial marital collapse or managing a difficult sisterly disclosure. It demands an absolute, uncompromising defense of individual dignity, personal truth, and systemic survival against a cold, calculating machine of domestic manipulation and psychopathic supremacy. While our central characters smooth over each other's psychological and defensive blind spots with devastating analytical force, creating a fiercely protective, absolute web of dark possessive loyalty around their shared family bond, a brutal series of close-quarters tactical confrontations and high-stakes evidentiary breakthroughs shifts the clock into its terminal phase, proving that historical emotional hazards have tracked them to their final outpost. To survive the impending locked grid trap and permanently secure her sanctuary, our resilient heroine must unleash an absolute, unyielding defense of her final boundary lines. It is a gothic thriller, magical realism noir, generational secret mystery, and high-velocity contemporary puzzle masterpiece that treats deep relational logistics and intense structural friction with elite precision. The tension here burns with a sharp, calculation-heavy intensity. We are talking about that high-frequency, one unlocked obsidian basin triggers a fatal snaking showdown energy, where a sudden pause during an active franchise tactical briefing, an unexpected shift in an adversary's protective physical posture during a high-stakes standoff confrontation, or a heavy, possessive realization that an elite intelligence operative has completely mapped your personal coordinates carries massive structural weight. Lourey writes with an exceptionally fresh, vivid, and beautifully blunt voice, perfectly capturing the heavy, oppressive atmosphere of a private executive vault before a major corporate takeover, and the distinct, subtle scent of polished mahogany, damp soil, crushed rowan berries, copper, dynamic adrenaline, and pure, unadulterated suspense. What truly elevates this contemporary standalone marvel into elite territory is the author's unmatched ability to balance complex, high-stakes relationship dynamics and genuine protective power tradecraft alongside a breathtaking narrative pace and deep emotional hooks. Our protagonists don't rely on unbelievable superficial Hollywood superhero action tropes. Their immense situational intelligence, strategic patience, and profound survival instincts match the complexity of the chaotic modern corporate and high society underworld they dominate step for step, making their choices to risk everything feel profoundly authentic and deeply gripping. The pacing moves with calculated momentum, tracking intense conversational standoffs and breathtaking tactical breakthroughs before ratcheting up to an absolute jaw-dropping conclusion that delivers total, hard-earned advancement to their horizon. The Blackthorn Women is the definitive pro-level upgrade your high-stakes contemporary thriller and intense asset suspense library demands right now. It is elegant, immensely fast-paced, and utterly unpotopable. It proves that when your entire sanctuary is targeted by a cold, calculating institutional monster, the most revolutionary play you can execute is to lock your perimeters, trust your elite survival training, and fight like hell alongside your network to rewrite the data. So secure your personal reading sanctuary, review your emotional defensive perimeters, open your Kindle, and prepare to track the fleet.